There we go. So welcome everybody to our astrology class for beginners. I'm super excited to dive in. For the people that are not going to be able to catch us live, definitely let me know that you watch the replay, reply via email so that I can follow up with you if you have any questions. But basically, this class is built to be a 6-week course because astrology is so deep. If I just gave you 2 hours 1 week, you're always going to be wanting more. You're going to feel like you're missing some information. And the goal is for you to be able to read your birth chart without needing to have me. So today we're going to go through the basics. We're also going to go through like what to expect for the next 6 weeks. And we're going to go through some housekeeping stuff. But before we do any of that, hi, I'm Jordy, especially for the people who don't know me. I am a spiritual life coach, business mentor, astrologer. I do human design, Reiki, all the things. But my first love was astrology. I was maybe 15 years old when I started this path. And I remember it was a book my mom actually had. And I remember I read it cover to cover. It was the sun signs, and I couldn't put it down. At the time, my parents were really religious, so it was frowned upon. But then as I grew up, I found my way back to astrology. And honestly, I should have never put it down. It is my favorite language, and now I get to teach it because I love it so much. So I did ask everybody that was in the room to drop their big three so that we could kind of pick and choose for when we're going through the charts and breaking things down. But essentially, here in this environment, our housekeeping rules are definitely being courteous, no drama, no back and forth, just keeping it friendly. Number two, I'm going to be teaching a lot of material, and a lot of the questions you're going to have are probably going to be answered in the process of the course. So I like to keep questions to the end. Now, if you have something that's really pressing that you really want me to answer, drop it in the chat and I'll try to come back to it at the end. But let's do a Q&A at the end and let's get through the material while we're here. Now, some of the parts of the way that I structure this course, I would like participation because I feel like we get more feedback when we're able to put people on the hotspot, ask questions, go deeper. Again, for anybody watching the replay, if you're not interacting in the room, I know it's not the same, but my intention is that through listening to other people, plus everything that I'm teaching, that you're going to get the full experience. And then if you want to go deeper, we can talk on the side. So let me try to share some slides here on the screen and we will dive in. But for everybody that's in the room, since we only have a couple of people, do you want to introduce yourself and tell me like what made you join the beginners course? No pressure. Next, you want to go first?
Hi, sure, yeah. I'm Nikisha or Nix. I went to your class in October and it was like an in-person meetup,
Mm-hmm.
and I've always been interested in astrology. I always wanted to like understand it better, but I haven't had like the capacity. I've been in grad school, I've been working, all this stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
um, now I just want to learn, especially after that one class. I really enjoyed your teaching style and just excited to learn more. I've seen your TikToks and they just really resonated. So,
I love that. Awesome. Thank you. What about you, Ramona? No pressure. This is my mom, by the way, so I'm picking on her on purpose.
Well, I'm here because I am always being curious to know more
Mm-hmm.
about astrology.
Mm-hmm.
And this is an opportunity for me to learn.
Yes. I love it. Awesome. So I did mention that back in the day, astrology was frowned upon at home. It's so funny how it's a full circle moment. Now my mom is learning astrology from me. So it's like a really proud day. But anyways, let me try to share the slides here on the screen. And you guys let me know when you can see them. And again, the slides are mainly for the people that are not going to be able to attend in person, so they can kind of follow along. If you know my teaching style and how I've done this, I tend to just flow. So these are like visual aids for people who need them, but a lot of it is going to be spoken. Can you guys see my screen? Okay, beautiful. So I actually, as a true Gemini, so I'm a Gemini sun, Leo rising, Cancer moon. I prepared the wrong thing. I was so excited about this. I prepared slides for like class 2 and 3. And then 30 minutes before this class, I was like, oh crap, this is not what I'm teaching. So we had to go back. So it's going to flow how it's going to flow, but I'm so excited to get into it. But the idea of actually, before I do the slides, see, Gemini brain here, I want to walk through what to expect for the next 6 weeks. So week one, we're going to be covering the basics of astrology, meaning what does it all mean? What is a chart? What is astrology? Why do we care? What is a planet? What is a sign? What does it mean? How do you put it together? Because a lot of times, if you go to an astrologer or you watch a TikTok, people are just telling you about yourself. They don't really tell you where to look. What does it mean? Where they're getting the information from. So class one is going to be all about what is a birth chart. So going into all the names and everything that you probably maybe heard of or maybe have not, but the idea is for you to kind of picture in your head when they say this is what that means, right? Class number two is going to be where we go into the signs, and we're going to cover all 12 signs, which is what I believe we did in person next when I did it at the coffee shop. But again, this one's going to be a little bit deeper. We have a little bit more time, a little bit more structure. So we're talking about the signs, the elements, the modalities. What does that mean? Class number three, we're going into the houses. The houses are the places in the charts, like the areas of life where things take place. But again, we're going to be dedicating a whole class to that. Fourth, we're going to go into the planets. So the planets are like the sun, Pluto, the moon. And again, people talk at you. I'm going to teach you what does it mean for you? How do you combine all of this? The fifth class is going to cover all the aspects. So this is more how they communicate. What is a square? What is a trine? What happens if you have multiple planets in one place? Like, how does that go together? Now, the last class is probably my favorite because by this point, you would not be a beginner. You would be somebody who has the language, and then I'm going to teach you how to put it all together. Now, if your goal is to do readings for people, you should be equipped to kind of get started. If your goal is to do it for yourself, you should be able to look at your birth chart on your own. Whatever you want to do with astrology, this is going to be a good foundation to kind of branch off of, right? So back to my slides now. And by the way, any questions so far? Are we good? Awesome. Okay, so screen, there we go. Now that the slides are up, essentially we're going to go through the structure. So this is like the, what do you call it? The foundation of astrology. Without this, it's like we would be doing a disservice just going into the stuff that's cool, like the signs and the houses, because you would not understand where to place what and what does it mean. So there we go. By the end of this, you should be able to understand the purpose of a birth chart. So astrology itself, to me, I'm going to give you my definition, is an observational science. So before we had maps, well, maybe not maps, but before we had clocks, calendars, or anything that we used to track time, before we would look at the weather as like a thing, we used to look at the patterns of what was happening in different seasons, what was happening with the sun when it was moving, because the only thing they could observe when there was not a lot of stuff was the sky. So they got really, really good at measuring the sky, planning around the seasons, and all of that is what astrology was based on. But today is literally a picture of what happened when you were born. So they take a picture of the sky, they condense it into a chart, and that is literally who you are. Now, when we're talking transits and what's going on in life, it's essentially putting a picture of that day connected to a picture of yourself, and we see how that day is affecting you. So essentially, the idea is to understand that the chart itself is just a map. However, the components of the charts matter because when you look at this, if you've never looked at astrology, you're like, what the heck am I looking at, right? It's a language that is made out of symbols. So it's open to interpretation. These are not words on a screen. This is not, I mean, there is math, there are words, there are symbols, but essentially, if you don't know what you're looking at, it looks like hieroglyphics, right? The next thing is what is the right order to look at a birth chart? Because we could look at a birth chart as a whole, or we could learn how does an astrologer think and how do they arrive at the conclusion of who somebody is. So that's kind of the path we're going to be taking today. But in order to do that, we have to kind of look at like what it is versus what is not. And at least the way that I teach it, I don't believe astrology is something that you have to live by. I don't believe astrology is something that tells you how to live your life, when to move, what to do. I use it kind of as a tool to give me more information. So whether it comes to, oh my goodness, am I ever going to get married? Sure, you could see the trend and the pattern of when it's more likely that you might meet someone, or that you may or may not have a husband, or maybe you will or won't have children. But there's also free will. There's also life. There's a lot of things we cannot control. So this is not a system that it's a guarantee. This isn't me reading your mind. This is not, oh, I'm a Taurus and that's all I am. I'm a Libra and that's all I am. You are so much more than that. So the idea with this is to kind of take you from the mainstream TikTok algorithm to like, what is it really, right? So as I explained, it's a language of symbols. So I want you to think hieroglyphics and open to interpretation instead of like set in stone, and this is the only way that it could be. Because even though I'm going to teach you my perception of astrology, I want you to develop your own. I want you to like start to notice what does it mean for you. And you'll start to recognize keywords like when I say Scorpio, my word is intense or passion. Maybe for you, you're a Scorpio or you have a Scorpio in your life and you have a better word that fits what you believe them to be. Does that make sense? Okay, good. The next thing is it's a system of cycles and timing. So the beauty of astrology is that it's built in such a way that everything is a pattern. Everything builds on top of each other. Everything can be tracked, everything can be predicted, everything can be looked at as like, if this is happening, then this is likely the next potential step. So it helps you prepare because even though life is unpredictable and things will happen, you can have an idea of what is it going to feel like? What is this energy going to bring? What kind of things could potentially happen and in what area of my life? So it allows you to kind of prepare instead of being open to it all, to know that, hey, maybe this is a season for me to stay home a little bit. Maybe tonight is a good night to avoid people. It just helps you kind of plan ahead. And again, cycles and timing, to have that on your side saves you a lot of time. I don't remember who it was, some billionaire that said, regular people don't use astrology, billionaires do. The people who are using the market, the people who are making the moves, the people who are running the big corporations or even bigger religion, they use astrology. The biggest, is it a telescope? Don't quote me on that. I think it's a telescope that they use to look at the stars, right? Okay, good. I'm glad I know that part. The biggest one is literally in the Vatican City in Italy. So even though they're like, this is evil, don't use it, they've been looking at the stars since the beginning of time. And a lot of what they do and is trending is based on their observation of the sky. So for someone who knows what to look for and the patterns and like how people and corporations and institutions have built so much, you kind of notice the fact that like they knew it was coming, they knew when to push, they knew when to pull back, right? The last thing is it's a map of archetypal patterns. So it's not just patterns, there's also archetypes. Are you guys familiar with archetypes? Do you know what that means? Okay. So to give you an example of an archetype, when you think of a mother, what do you think of? And you can unmute and like share. When I say the word mother, what do you think of?
I think soft, caring.
Right. What about you, mommy? I'm gonna call you mommy because you're my mom. But when I say the word mother, what comes to mind? Or are you not able to unmute? Hang on. Oh, I
Yes,
see
I
what you're
am.
saying. Okay, no,
I
you can drop
forgot
it
to
in the chat.
write.
I'm sorry. I just saw
Uh,
it. You're good. So nurture and care. Got it. Okay, so do you see how an image of something literally puts an idea of something in your mind? Like when I say the word mother, you bring up nurture, care. Um, again, someone who protects you, someone who takes care of you. Now, when I say the word murderer, what comes to mind?
Evil.
Right? Evil is a good word. So, do you see how an image can create a picture? So, an
mhm.
archetype is essentially taking an energy or a feeling or a cluster of this is what this means and assigning it to a thing. So, when we're talking about a language that is based on symbols, we want to put a symbol in your mind and trigger some words, some keywords, some feelings, some thoughts. So, it's built on archetypes, and you're going to find as I'm going through all of it patterns, archetypes, and repetition. That is what astrology is. And when you understand that, you can kind of use it like a building block and start to put it together, and it starts to make more sense. So it doesn't mean we're not looking at the same thing if we're saying it in different ways. It's just through your lens, this is how you perceive it. Through her lens, that's how she perceives it. A mother is still a mother, but if I had a really bad relationship with mine, I'm not going to say sweet, loving things. I'm going to say my mom was a little bit more stern. She was a little bit more direct, right? But maybe your experience is my mom used to cuddle me and sing lullabies for me to go to sleep. So that's kind of how astrology works. And that's why you find that is so different depending on who's teaching it. So the fact that you resonate with someone's style means that that is closer to your version of what astrology should be, right? So any questions on that? Are we following? Thumbs up?
Following.
Awesome. So the next part, there we go. So what is the birth chart we discussed is a picture of the sky at this exact time that you were born. And the time does matter. Ideally, you want to get it as close to like a 30-minute window because some of the planets, like the moon, they move every 2.5 days. Some of the placements move very, very quickly. The vertex moves every 3 minutes. And again, if you're going to dive deep, you want it as accurate as possible because the time of your birth determines where this line right here, the ascendant and descendant line, is going to go. Depending on the time of your birth, imagine this is the horizon when you were born. And then the picture of this is where was the sun at the time that you were born? So for this particular person, which we're going to dive into, she was born around like noonish, 1 p.m. because the sun is at the peak of where the horizon line would be. Now, the bottom of the chart is usually nighttime because the sun is still moving around the earth. It's just on the opposite side and we don't see it. Do you see how that works? Got it. Beautiful. So it is a picture and all of these symbols mean something. And we're going to go through each one. But looking at this birth chart, we see the ascendant line, descendant line, the sun is right here. The moon, it's a picture of the moon right here. And now we want to understand, okay, the moon in this place with that number, with that symbol, what does that mean? So that's essentially what today's class is going to answer of what are we looking for? What does it look like on a chart? What does it mean? How do I describe it? So example, here's the moon in Cancer in the second house. How do I know that? The picture of the moon is next to the picture of the crab. And there's a number 2 that tells me this is the house that it lives in. So when I put those archetypes in my brain, as an astrologer, I immediately go like, wow, this is somebody who has their emotional security connected to their money. This is somebody who is very nurturing and caring and very mother-like. Because Cancer and the moon, that's where mom lives, right? But again, as an astrologer, I know that I want to start creating that thought pattern in your brain. But we're going to go a little bit deeper. So at any point, drop in the chat if you have any questions or if you want me to go deeper. So I don't move on before you're ready, okay? Why isn't it going? There we go. So the concept or the way that I want to put it in your brain is like a formula, right? The planet, like I said, the moon, it tells you what is it. So the moon are emotions. Again, we're going to go a little bit deeper, but I want to create the framework, right? What is it? The sign, Cancer, for example, tells you how do they do that thing, right? And then the house tells you where in your life do they do that thing the way that they do it. So going back to the image before, oh, it won't let me go back. There we go. The moon, right? That's what. So emotions. The how is Cancer. They emote like a Cancer. Cancer is very nurturing and soft. It's also moody. And then where in life do their emotions drive them? For this person, it's in their second house, which has to do with money and values. So again, it's like a formula. So we start with what is it? How do they do it? Where do they do it? Does that make sense? Good. So this is where it gets a little convoluted. So hang with me because I know it looks like a lot, but I'm going to explain. We're going to take it apart now. There's this giant wheel with all of these pictures and all of these lines. What the heck is it, right? So starting with the wheel itself, depending on what website you pull your chart, is going to have a wheel on the outside that's going to tell you the signs. So there's 12 signs starting from Aries, and they go Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, and they always go in that order. It doesn't matter what birth chart you're looking at. Everybody has 12 signs. Everybody has all of them, and they always go in order, right? Number 2, we're looking at the inner wheel right here, which is telling you the houses. So again, there's 12 signs. There are 12 houses. Each sign has a house. Now, normally, every sign has their own house, but depending on the person you're looking at, they may be in a different house. So for example, Aries rules the first house. That's just natally what it does. So Aries and everything associated with Aries also lives in the first house. However, like in this chart that we're looking at, Aries is on the 7th house, is not on the 1st house. Do you see that? So for this person, their Aries nature lives in a different house, meaning it affects their relationships and not their identity. Oh, wow, look at all these things on my face. I didn't know you could do that. I guess I'm doing the signs and it does it. Anyways, sorry, squirrel brain. So do you see how the houses and the signs are always there, but they're not always aligned? Good. The next step is the planets. So we see all of these pictures, like here's the moon, here's Mars, here's Jupiter. You're going to learn what these are. But if you just recognize the moon and the sun for right now, the moon always looks like a picture of the moon, and the sun looks like a circle with a period in the middle. So the sun and the moon, we always ask, what are your big three? We're looking at your sun, your moon, and your rising. So your rising is always going to have ASC, so your ascendant, and that is the outer self, how people see you, what you look like physically, right? So for this person, what is the rising?
Libra.
Exactly. What is their sun? It's the little circle with the dot in the middle.
Capricorn.
Right. So they're a Capricorn sun, Libra rising, and what is their moon?
Leo.
Exactly. So when I ask for your big three, that's what we're looking for. Now, for everybody, they tend to be different. Even if they're the same, they could be in different houses, right? But that's what we're looking for: sun, moon, and rising. The next thing we look at is and we're going to break this down a little deeper, there's different axes in astrology. So an axis is essentially this: it's a cross. And everything in astrology, because it's a giant circle, we kind of break it up like a pizza. It's an axis, and even if we turn it this way or that way, it's still an axis. So it's like a wheel, it's always moving, right? So for this particular one, Aries should be on the 1st house, but it's not. So if you notice, the wheel just spun halfway, and now Aries is over here and Libra is over here. The signs didn't move, the wheel did. Do you see how that works?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So essentially, when you're looking at a birth chart, this is the order that your brain goes into. Zodiac signs, planets, what is their rising, houses, where are they? And then all of these little lines in the middle, they tell us a story. Because even though you see the moon over here and the sun over here, and you see ascendant over here and like Mars over here, the lines tell you these things interact together. Like this is where they like hang out. Like it's almost like I'm walking to your house from time to time and I'm creating chaos. So for example, let's pick an easy one of something that you guys would understand at this level. Okay, so here's the moon, and this planet right here is Mars, right? So there's a line that goes from here to here, which tells us Mars and the moon interact. So for this person, their sense of taking action, their drive, their passion interacts with their emotions because Leo, the moon rules emotions. So these two planets hang out. So even though maybe for me, whether or not I decide to do something or take action or pursue somebody has nothing to do with how I feel. Maybe I'm just somebody that's really structured and I just wake up and I do the thing. For this person, they have to feel like doing the thing. They have to feel like they want to take that action. For them, their moon, this is a deeper subject here, but like their feelings and their drive are connected. Everybody that you know is not built the same. So when you see aspects and lines, this is where we go deeper into like, how does this interact with this? And even though this person is this, they could also be like this. Sometimes it's a push and pull dynamic. Sometimes it's they're really gifted at something. Sometimes this is an area where they really struggle. And if you think about a human being, we are so complex. There's always going to be some dynamic where like, it's not normal, meaning everybody just doesn't wake up excited to live. Everybody's not just happy to go to work. Everybody's not successful. Everybody doesn't love their family, right? But when you look at a birth chart, it tells you the story of what is it about this person and how they live life. And all of these lines are essentially telling you these are the intricacies of this person, right? So we're going to dissect the aspects, but the order that I'm going to teach you in is the signs, then the houses, then the planets, then we're going to go into the aspects. Because to understand the storyline, you have to understand who are the players, where do they play, and how do they play? What, how, and where, right? Are we following so far, or did I lose you guys? Okay, good. So the next part, this is again just as convoluted, but it's trying to give you a better picture of like the houses and also the main axis in the middle. The reason I want to highlight the axis right here is because this is something you're always going to come back to, because we always talk about your rising, right? Everybody's rising is going to be right here on the first house cusp. And a cusp is just the line between two signs or between two houses. So the first house is always going to be right here. So when you're looking at a birth chart, even though it looks like this, ascendant is always going to be right here. Now the ascendant is important because I go back to the horizon and when you were born, right? It's the beginning of your life, is the beginning of the chart, is the beginning of your identity, is the beginning of who you are, is the moment you took your first breath. Now the houses are going to go deeper, but notice the first house is always going to cover your body, your personality, your direction in life, what you look like, what is the first impression people have about you when they meet you, right? Okay, I see a question. How significant are the axes? Never heard this. Okay, two are right in between two signs in my chart. We'll get into that. So I want to build it slowly before we get to the complex parts. But essentially, first house, ascendant, is always right there. So when I say, let me look at you guys as in this thing, we have Taurus rising, right? So for you, this house will be Taurus. This line, your ascendant, will be in Taurus. So your body, the way that you look, the way that you behave, the way that you carry yourself is very Taurus-like. Now, Taurus is a sign that is known for looking, and this is going to sound bad, but it's not bad. They look a little bit like a cow, like the really big eyes, the really sweet face, the really soft cheeks. They have like that sturdy, like they're sturdy bodies. They're people who like they can handle some stuff, but they look really sweet, innocent, and their eyes are like super soft, right? So naturally, that is the appearance that you have. So it's usually darker features, darker hair, like more reddish skin tone. Taurus is a very like the word that's coming up is like bovine, but I don't know if you guys know that word. It's like really cute, like the cute little cow with the cute little dimples and the cute little face. And they're like pudgy and soft, but like they're still sturdy, right? Because the animal that rules Taurus is the bull. So these are not people that are light. These are people that are like tough, right? The second thing that comes up there is like, what is the personality? At Taurus, they move really slow. They're very stubborn. They're going to do things when they want to do them. You cannot make a Taurus do anything. So naturally, when they come in and you're like, wow, this is a Taurus rising, this is somebody who's not just going to agree with you. They're going to ask questions. They're going to think about it. They're going to take their time. They might be stubborn about their decision, even if they're wrong, until they decide they're ready to move, right? Another thing that comes in here is your life direction. Taurus is known for taking the slow and steady approach. They will die on that hill. They're going to do it slow and steady. They are not going to be rushed, right? Now, the opposite here, we have an Aquarius rising. So Aquarius is completely different. We're back here. So the personality of an Aquarius, they are out of this world. They are so quirky and unique and different. These are the people that they're going to wear what they want to wear. They don't want to wear what's in fashion. They're going to do the thing the way they want to do it. They don't want to do it the way that anybody else does. They're brilliant. They're really smart, but sometimes they're not even in this world because they go so high into their mind. Somebody has to be like, hey, come back to earth. So Taurus is like, I'm here, I'm grounded, I'm not moving, I'm in earth. Aquarius is over here floating. So naturally, these are two very different people, but the way that we can tell is what is the rising sign? Do you see how that works? Now, again, I'm a Leo rising. Mine is a little bit different. Leo is the lion. It's bold. It's a big personality. So 9 times out of 10, when you meet me, big hair, expressive face. It's like cat-like features, whether it's the eyes or like the whiskers, like usually really round cheeks. They just look regal and they have like an air of arrogance, but I wouldn't say arrogance. It's like an air of like, I know who I am. Like, I'm the queen. What do you mean? So Aquarius rising, Taurus rising, Leo rising, very different experience of the same thing. Do you see that? Awesome. So the ascendant is really important, but I go back to that original axis because on the opposite side, there is always the descendant. And on the chart is going to look like a DSC, but the descendant is the opposite of yourself because this is me and what I look like. This is me and the opposite, which means me in relation with someone else. This is who I attract, who I date, who I become friends with, who do I want to partner with, who do I end up marrying, who are my enemies. Anybody that comes in close contact with me is the opposite of me, but that's what I need because it balances me out. I hate it, but it's because I need it. I love it, but it's because I need it. So there's this dynamic of push and pull. So the ascendant and the descendant are always opposite each other. And when something is opposite, there's like a push and pull dynamic because it's almost like, who am I in this relationship? You have to come back to yourself to feel you in the relationship. But then you also miss people and you're like, I don't want to be alone. And then you come back into partnership. So the descendant is always going to be at the cusp or the beginning of the seventh house. And the seventh house is the opposite of the first. So we're talking relationships, we're talking contracts, people that I work with. And I'm not talking like your whole job, but like your boss or like the person you go into business with or like your best friend, right? So do you see how that's an axis and it's always the same, but it's different for everybody? Beautiful. So like for Taurus, the descendant is always going to be Scorpio. Now, this is where we have to kind of catch up because going back to the image, Taurus is always going to be opposite Scorpio. It doesn't matter where in the wheel it is and how many times it spins, it's always going to be opposite. For Aquarius is Leo. Leo and Aquarius are always going to be opposite. It doesn't matter how many times you turn that wheel and what your rising is. If your rising is Aquarius, your descendant is Leo. If your rising is Leo, your descendant is Aquarius. And same with Taurus, Scorpio, Gemini, Sagittarius, Aries, Libra, and so on. But again, we're going to go deeper. I just want you to like put that in your brain for now. So going back to the axis that we were just discussing, there is also an axis that goes up and down. So just like we have one at the beginning of who I am and who I am with a partner, now we have one about like, it's called the IC or the Imam Kwali. Essentially, this is the beginning of who I am. So this is the ascendant is the beginning of your personality. The IC is the beginning of your identity. So it's the beginning of the fourth house, which is your home, your childhood. Where did you come from? What is your ancestry? What are your foundations? What are your foundational beliefs about yourself? So the fourth house has to do with everything about where you came from and where you feel the safest, right? So just like we're looking at the ascendant, when somebody tells me they're ascendant, I already know what kind of people they date. I already know what their home life was like growing up because it's always an axis. But again, just putting it in your brain, we're going to go deeper. Do we see how that works? Now, on the opposite side of like who I am and where I came from is where am I going and what am I going to be known for? Like, what is the thing that I'm over here to like pioneer and lead on? So it's the beginning of your career, your public persona, your reputation, your legacy, what you're known for. So you have to know where you came from to know where you're going. You have to know who you are to know who you partner with. It is an axis and it's always the same. Can I get a thumbs up? Are we breathing? Did we lose our minds? Are we good? Okay, good. Awesome. So again, we're going to go deeper into the houses. We're going to go deeper into these placements. The point of this was to show you the axis because this is the most foundational part of astrology. Ascendant, descendant, IC, and MC. So whenever anybody comes to me with like, oh my God, I'm struggling in my relationships, where am I looking? Where do I go? Or, oh my God, I'm having like an identity crisis. I don't know who I am. I'm like, this is such a hard place to be. Where do I look? Like, where would you look? Can you just tell me in the chat if you guys don't want to unmute? If I tell you I'm really struggling with myself and I feel like I don't know what's going on, but I'm changing. As an astrologer, where would I go look?
Midheaven?
No, it would be my first house, exactly. Because the midheaven is my career. But if I'm struggling as a person with my identity, then that is right here. It's me. What's wrong with me? What's going on? My personality is different. I don't feel the same. But if it's somebody saying, oh my God, I'm having so much trouble at work, my boss just keeps creating so much drama, I don't understand what's happening, then I go to the midheaven and I'm like, what is going on there? Now it's deeper because when you're looking at an actual chart, like this is a regular chart, right? Let's say they're struggling in their job. Well, actually, let's say they're struggling with their identity right here. And I'm like, what is going on with them right now? And then I see that their identity is connected to, boom, the eighth house. It's connected to their fourth house. It's connected again to their IC, which is their childhood, right? And it's also connected to their third house. Based on what I've taught you so far, and I see them having an identity crisis, and I see that it interacts with their childhood, I'm immediately going to say, oh, this is childhood trauma coming up. What do you mean? Well, I can tell there was a lot going on at home. How? And then I start dissecting the planets. But it's like you're looking at the aspects to tell you where to go. Because for some people, maybe they don't have any aspects to their childhood. And maybe even though they had trauma, it doesn't drive them, it doesn't affect them. But for this person, it does. Because look at where the lines are pointing. The lines are telling you the story. It has to do with a block in communication. It has to do with a block in their childhood. There's some areas of themselves that they haven't looked at. But again, I know the houses. That's where my brain immediately goes into like, where's the pattern? What is it telling me? So for now, just know the axis and have an idea of where to start looking and what does it mean. Okay. Are we good to move on or do we have any questions here? Thumbs up? Okay. Awesome. So now we're going to go back to our original formula. So the what, the how, the where, right? So what are the planets? The planets in astrology are essentially, again, it's a picture of the sky. So that's what we're looking at. Where was the sun when you were born? Where was the moon? But every planet represents something, right? And we're going to go way deeper into this. These are just keywords to get your brain kind of buzzing so that you have an idea of what we're talking to before we go deeper. So the sun in astrology represents your identity and your vitality. So even though I'm a Gemini sun, when I talk about myself, I usually talk about my rising. I'm a Leo rising Gemini sun. Because even though I'm a Gemini sun and that's my identity and my life force, and I'm like that, like a Gemini, and I never shut up, when people meet me, that's not what they think of me. They're like, why does she carry herself like that? Wow, her hair is huge. Wow, she's really into herself. Man, that girl is confident. So these are things that like eventually you start to learn, oh, that's how people perceive me. So even though my identity is I'm a very talkative, I learn a little bit about everything. I connect with a lot of people. I'm all over the place, right? How people meet me and perceive me is not who I really am all the time. So your sun sign, whatever that is, it's a big part of your identity. Now, where that sun is in your chart tells you what area of your life is your identity really prominent in. And we're going to talk about it deeper, but I just want to get you thinking in that way. So like if your sun is in your IC, in your childhood, a big part of your identity has to do with your childhood and where you came from in your ancestry. But if your sun is like in your seventh house or your descendant, a big part of your identity has to do with relationships with other people. But if your sun is in your MC in the 10th house, a big part of your identity has to do with your career and what you're known for. And if your sun is in the ascendant, your life is about you. Like, forget other people, it's about me, right? So it's kind of understanding, okay, identity, vitality, where is it? Where is my life force? Where do I get my joy from? Right? The second one is the moon. The moon in astrology represents your emotions, your subconscious. What are those needs that I have? So for some people, they're really criers. I'm a crier, I'm a Cancer moon, right? I need a cozy blanket. I need Moana on TV or Disney movies. I need some hot tea and I need to cry. My mother, she's an Aries moon. Her needs are I'm angry and I need to let people know I'm angry. And then once I get it out, I'm good. So she's more reactive. I'm more feeling, right? Next, what's your moon, babe?
Capricorn.
Okay, completely different energy. So a Capricorn moon, they're very earthy, they're very grounded. These are people who are going to figure out the problem. They don't want to cry about it. They're like, okay, like what's step 1 through 10? Because why am I mad right now? Why do I care this much? Like, you know what? I'm just going to cut this person out of my life. It's not that deep. Capricorn is very practical, very matter of fact, very straightforward. So even though we all have emotions, we have different emotional needs. At Earth Moon, like a Capricorn, they want to fix it. They want structure. They want order back. Fire, Aries Moon, they want to feel it. They want to shout. They want to be mad. They want to say, because I said so. Water, Cancer Moons, we just want to feel it. We're just like, oh, all these emotions. Think sadness and like, what's that word? Was that movie Inside Out? That
Oh,
is literally a Cancer moon. And I love that for me, but it's tough. If you're a water moon, y'all get it. But it's kind of the energy. Mercury is the planet of thinking and communication. So when you see Mercury, we're talking about how does someone think about life? How does someone communicate? Do they speak really fast? Are they people who tend to exaggerate? Are they people who talk really slow? Are these people who are going to have a stutter? Thinking, are these people in their heads all the time like ADHD? Or are these people like, I can only do one thing at a time and I get overwhelmed, right? So it's understanding, okay, when I see Mercury, it's the way they think and the way they communicate, right? Then there's Venus. This is the planet of love. It's the planet of money. It's the planet of values. So this is the way that someone falls in love. This is the way that someone flirts. These are the things that people value. This is how people attract money and people into their lives. So wherever your Venus is, you may have a different flavor of the same thing, but essentially where Venus is, that is how you love. Now, again, depending on where it is, you might love a different way. You might love different things. You might attract better in one area than in another, right? So it does matter. Mars is the planet of action and the planet of drive and the planet of passion. This is a planet that's all about movement and getting things going. Action is about movement. It's like, I don't want to sit here. I need to do something. Now, there are people who are really impulsive, Aries. There are people who are really slow to move, Taurus. There are people who get emotional about having to move, where they feel like kind of like gooey, like, oh, should I move? Shouldn't I move? I don't know if I like, they're indecisive. They never really take a step, right? So depending where Mars is, it tells you what flavor you have when it comes to taking action, when it comes to motivation, when it comes to your drive. Okay, are we following? Good. Next planet is Jupiter. Jupiter is called the Great Benefic because it's a very positive planet. From my perception, Jupiter amplifies anything that is there. So sometimes it doesn't amplify good things. Sometimes it amplifies the bad ones too. So it's just understanding that just because a planet is good, it doesn't mean it's good for you or where it's placed or that it's aspecting you well. So Jupiter is the planet of growth, is the planet of belief, is the planet of spirituality, even of like going bigger. This is about optimism and seeing the higher picture. And like these are areas where you are designed to grow, where you are designed to expand, where you're designed to just like really sit in and be like, what do I believe? Where am I going? It's like higher thinking. Okay. So wherever Jupiter is in your chart, again, what area of my life am I supposed to grow in? What do I believe in? Who am I? What am I expanding? And again, if you're amplifying, for example, your fourth house of childhood, did you have a good childhood? And if you're amplifying that, what does that look like? Right? Relationships. Maybe you're putting relationships on a pedestal and you're like, I love love, but like you're having a horrible time dating, right? So it's understanding, who am I attracting? Why am I expanding in this area? But again, we're going to go deeper. This is just keywords for right now. The next planet is Saturn, and everybody fears Saturn because Saturn returns. Saturn just moved into Aries. It's a planet of discipline, structure, karma, mastery. And even though it sounds bad, this is like Capricorn energy. This is like daddy energy. This is like, let's clean it up. This is not working. So even though Saturn is tough because discipline doesn't sound fun, structure doesn't sound fun, we need structure. We need order. So where is Saturn in your chart? Are you somebody who's like holding yourself back in what you believe, in speaking, in your love life, at home, right? But Saturn is a really big planet, and Saturn return every 28 and a half years basically comes back home and it cleans up what's not working. So any place that you have Saturn, The Saturn return is tough because we don't always do what's best for us. We do what feels good in the moment. And then life comes back and it's like, hey, you're supposed to be going over here. And it's going to redirect you through structure, discipline, and force. It is slow, it is painful, but it works. So we love Saturn here. The next planet is Uranus. And Uranus is the planet of like the unexpected. It's a planet that's all about change, rebellion. It's about being different. It's about being unique. So Uranus is a very particular planet. And wherever you have this planet in your chart, it brings a lot of change. If you have it in your career house, you probably change jobs super quickly. If you have it in your childhood, you probably moved a lot when you were little. If you have it in your identity, you probably change your look every couple months or like cut your hair or pierce your face or whatever. So depending where you have Uranus, it'll kind of give you an idea, what is the area of my life where there's a lot of change, where I rebel a lot? And also once we go deeper, when Uranus is transiting any part of your chart, that is where changes are coming into your life. Where Jupiter is transiting, that's where growth is coming into your life. When Mars is transiting, that's where you're going to start taking action in that area of your life. So if you learn the keywords and you're like, okay, Saturn is transiting here, what's going on here? What is it doing for me? What is it bringing for me? Every planet has a flavor. Oh, some water, please hold. Any questions so far? But I feel like we're moving fast. I love it. Okay, the next planet is Neptune. And Neptune is the planet that rules Pisces. It's all about dreams, higher than life thinking, rose-colored glasses, illusion. Neptune is beautiful if it's placed in the right place. But if it's not in the right place, it can be really painful, right? Because if you're somebody who has like a Neptunian flavor in your way of speaking, you could probably say some beautiful words. You could be an amazing singer. You could be somebody who like shares beautiful, dreamy, illusionary, life is amazing type of voice, right? But if you have it in relationships, maybe you don't see the people you date clearly. Maybe you look at them like, oh my God, they're so perfect, but really they're hurting you. Or you have like rose colored glasses when it comes to the people that you attract. So Neptune is a planet that we love, but we need to learn how to work with the places where we tend to have an illusion, where we're not seeing things clearly, right? But if it's aspected correctly, it's beautiful because it gives you like that greater than life feeling. So, for example, if you know a Pisces in your life or a Pisces rising, they're ruled by Neptune. This is kind of that aura of like, man, sometimes they're like starving artists. They're magic and amazing, but like they're not making any money, right? So you have to think, okay, if they have a lot of Neptune, these are not people who are very grounded. So this is where we're like, oh, I wish we had more Saturn. I wish we had more Mars. But every chart is different. We're just going to unpack it one at a time. Lastly is Pluto. And this is the planet of power, transformation, death, sex, rebirth, the taboo, the things that people don't want to talk about. The thing about Pluto is that Pluto moves really slow. So I think it's 20 years, 20, 21 years to move through the whole wheel. So essentially what that means is it's a generational planet. Every generation shares a Pluto. Like I'm a millennial, a lot of us up until like 1994 have Pluto in Scorpio, right? Where Scorpio is in your chart, that's different, but we have Pluto in Scorpio. The generation before that had Pluto in Libra, and again, and so on and so forth. Right now, Pluto's in Aquarius. So if a baby's born today, they have Pluto in Aquarius, but it's going to be there for the next 20 years. So it's a big planet. Now, wherever we have this, this is an area of our life that's constantly undergoing transformation. This is an area of our life where we're always going to have darkness because it's the taboo, it's the unseen, it's the subconscious, it's the things we don't want to deal with, is debt, is death, is grief, is trauma, is mental health, is also power, transmutation. So for example, I have Scorpio in the fourth house. Fourth house, we just talked about the IC and how that's like your home, right? Your ancestry, your childhood, where you come from. So my childhood, very dark. That's when my business is Journey Through the Darkness, right? A lot of stuff happened there, but it's also where my power comes from because I've been there. Now I can help people overcome that. So going back to the picture to kind of cement it in your mind, what happened here for me with Pluto, a lot of transformation, a lot of darkness, a lot of death, a lot of taboo is what's aligning me with my career. It's what's aligning me with what I'm known for. So you see how the axis works together? And one planet being here also affects what's happening here. And if you have a planet here, it's also affecting what's happening here. So that's always the case in astrology. It's always connected. It's always a wheel. It's always one thing affects multiple things. It's not just one thing does it. Like that's it. Pluto is not just a planet. It's in what area of your life is your power? In what area of your life do you have the hardest time or the most trauma or the most darkness? Again, when I say Jupiter, where's the area of your life you're constantly having to grow, right? Like my Venus right now is in the ninth house. And that's all about spirituality and travel and higher learning. I like people who are smart. I date nerds. I usually date foreigners and people who aren't even from this country because I'm naturally drawn to like higher, bigger. Where do I go? What's next? Right? But somebody that has like Venus in the seventh house, you're attracting somebody who wants to be married, who wants to have babies, who wants to settle down. Right? So it's just learning what does it mean when I see it. And again, I highlighted the ascendant and the MC just again to kind of cement it in your brain. Ascendant is me, descendant is them or who I attract. But what that looks like is what's the first impression that I make when people meet me? How do I see life? And then MC is your career and like, where am I going? What am I known for? So again, planets, signs. Do you see how it all kind of meshes together? I promise by the end of the 6 weeks, you're going to have a way better understanding. These are just the key points so that when I speak about this, you're like, oh, that's what she meant. Oh my God, that's how that goes together. Because understanding the basics allows you to put it together. It's kind of like we're building a house and this is the foundation. But if the foundation is not sturdy, when I put the windows, you're not going to know why. Am I good to move on?
Yep.
Okay. So now we're going to talk, excuse me, about the how. So we talked about the what. Now we're talking about the how. So there are 12 signs, and this is the flavor that you bring into what you're doing. So going back to the wheel, if your ascendant is, my gosh, Taurus, right? That is the flavor that you bring to your personality to help people see you, to the way that you view life, right? But you have to understand all the signs in order to understand what that energy feels like, what it sounds like, why are they different than me? Why do we view life differently? Why are we different, right? So there are 12, and again, these are mainly keywords. I'm going to go deeper in our next class into each sign. But Aries is the first sign, is the baby of the zodiac, and they are known for initiating. They're known for getting things started, pioneering. They are courageous. They move impulsively. They don't really think about it. If this is fire, they're like the spark. I'm ready to go. Let's go. So when I say Aries moon, like my mom, her emotions, quick to blow up, very impulsive. If my feelings tell me I want to do something, I want to do it right now. Courage, they're not afraid of anything. They'll jump into the fire and be like, oh my God, that was a mistake, but they'll do it, right? Taurus, completely different. It's all about stability. It's all about the five senses. It's about being in their body. These are people that persevere. They move slow. They're sturdy. They take their time. So the difference between Aries and Taurus is massive. Do you see that? Because if you have a Taurus moon, for example, you feel by sticking it out. You feel by being in your five senses. You feel by staying stable and taking your time. Aries is going to pop off. They're going to leap in. They're going to go do the thing. They're going to go start something. They're going to start a fight. Meanwhile, Taurus is like, okay, I'm just going to sit here for like an hour. I need to process my feelings, right? And there's Gemini. Gemini is the baby of the air signs. It's all about curiosity. It's all about adaptability. They're all about communication. So if somebody has a Gemini moon and they process through talking. They process through asking questions. They process by like, why is it changing? Why is it different? I don't like this. Like they're the kind of people that like, if I don't understand, I can't move on. Right? But again, we're using the moon as an example. But whatever planet, whatever sign, do you see how it like goes together? We do feelings very differently, even though we're just one sign away. Then we have Cancer. Cancer is all about nurturing. We talked about mom, right? So nurturing, security, protection, intuition, home. Mom is like that person that holds you and cries with you, and it's like, baby, it's gonna be okay. So Cancer moon, hi, Cancer moon, we cry about everything. I want to be home and I want to feel my feelings, but also I'm deeply intuitive. When I'm in my feelings, I get so many breakthroughs, I get so many downloads. It's a really beautiful place to be. But like, I'm not afraid of emotion. I live in it. But in Aries, they're not feeling those feelings. They're just popping off. A Taurus, they're thinking about them and they're sitting in them, but sometimes they move so slow, they don't get over things. That's why they're stubborn, right? And then you see Gemini, they're just talking about it, but you're not fixing it. So everybody has a different flavor. And so on and so forth. We have Leo. Leo's all about self-expression, generosity, the heart, confidence, your inner child, being playful. Virgo, refinement, analysis, pattern recognition, service, understanding. These are people that break things apart and they want to figure it out. Their mind is constantly going. Libra is all about balance, harmony, diplomacy, relationships, finding a happy medium, making things work. How do we agree? Like, how do we get on the same page? Scorpio, intensity, transformation, passion, depth. Scorpio is intense. Scorpio is going to get to the root of it. Scorpio is going to like pull out the gunk and you're going to be like, murder. How did we get there? But that's how Scorpio thinks. There's no black and white. It's like, we're going to go to the bottom, right? Sagittarius, expansion, optimism, exploration, greater than life thinking. These are people that like want to save the world. They go out there on their little horse and they believe everybody loves them and everything is great. And sometimes, reality hits, but it's a beautiful way to live. Again, when it's in your feelings, though, they just lead. I'm angry. I'm going to go let you know that I'm angry. Or like they say something that's really hurtful, right? But that's just who they are. They don't think about it, they just react. Then you have Capricorn. Capricorn is all about endurance. It's all about ambition, structure, discipline, build to last. Scorpio is still about strategic and like they think about things practically. They have a plan for everything. So if you connect that to emotions, this is not I'm gonna cry about it. This is like, okay, where are we going? I need to drop this friend, bet. I didn't care that much. Oh, this relationship, you know what? It's not really making me better. I'm trying to be here in 10 years, so I'm gonna dump them. So it's very like detached and cold and clear. It's not bad, but it could benefit from a little softness, right? Then Aquarius is all about innovation. It's all about independence. It's all about helping the world, being a humanitarian. They're very like ahead of their time. So feelings, what feelings? That's not data. I want to move on to the next thing. I'm trying to save the world. Why am I going to cry about it? So Aquarius moon is very detached, is very like not really here all the time, right? Pisces, sensitivity, compassion, imagination, higher than life. So Pisces, they don't just cry for themselves, they feel for the world. They cry for the world. They feel everybody's feelings. So it's good and beautiful, but it's also really, really draining for them and it's not sustainable all the time. So every sign, every planet, there are drawbacks and there are positives. It's just understanding it all so you can make an informed decision with what you have. So no moon, no sign is better than the other. They're all exactly what you needed. You just need to learn how to balance it and how to work with it. So me as a Cancer moon, the opposite sign is Capricorn, I really benefit from people who don't think about feelings like the way that I do. Some of my best friends are Capricorn moon and they're like, Jordy, it's not that deep. And what I've realized, it's really not that deep. A lot of times I'm crying about something that I just need to take action in. And for them, I help them cry. Sometimes like they would lose a grandparent or like they would get into a car accident. I'm like, I'm fine. It's like, girl, no, you're not. Like, let's cry about it. What do you mean you're fine? So they benefit from having someone like me who helps them slow down and feel their feelings because they forget that crying, there's value in that too. And for me, I forget there's value in taking action too. Do you see how that works?
Yeah.
Okay, I know I'm throwing a lot of information. Is it landing? Do we have any questions so far?
I mean, I have so many questions, but I'll try to write it in.
Okay, we'll drop them in the chat so you don't forget them, and then we'll do it on the Q&A portion, okay?
Okay.
Good, but I just want to make sure we're following enough to understand like, oh, this is building. Okay, I see how it goes. It's like little building blocks of who someone is, and I at least have an idea of this is the wheel and this is where I look.
See, this is why I like your style because you're helping me understand the people in my life better.
Good. And I promise you, even your homework is going to be studying the people in your life because that's how I learned astrology. It's like I started with me and then I was like, huh, is that why me and my mom are so different? Wait, but my brother's not like that. What's wrong with him? Oh my God, that's why my sister talks like that. So it's really cool to be able to see it. And I want you to do that. But right now, I want to get you to think about like, oh, that's what she means when she says Aries moon. Or,
Mhm.
okay, that's the ascendant and that's the descendant. It's just keywords to kind of setting your brain for what we're building up to.
Gotcha.
Cool?
Yep.
Okay. Mommy, you good? Questions? Okay. Because I know you don't talk much, but I know you probably have questions. Okay. So now we're moving to the how, right? Obviously, we've talked about the signs and how they do it, but all the signs, they also have an element. I don't know if you noticed, I did every sign with their element next to it. And when I was describing them, I used words to kind of put in your brain, what does this element do? So we talked about fire, like Aries. They take action, they react, they burn. Fire is hot, right? What's hot? Passion. What's hot? Confidence. What's hot? Drive, action. I'm moving. I'm like, I'm burning. I want to do it. When you think of a fire sign, that is Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius, that is something they share. They are people who do. There are people who lead. There are people who are intense. There are people who are not lukewarm. They burn, sometimes too much, right? Like as a Leo rising, I apologize for anyone I've ever offended. This is just how I'm built, right? So if you have a lot of fire in your chart, you are not somebody that's afraid to move and get things done and take action and say what you mean. But sometimes you need someone to balance you out. That's where like earth, water, or air come in and they can kind of help you, right? If you're somebody that has a lot of earth, that's Taurus, Capricorn, and Virgo, right? These are signs that are all about moving really slow. They're about building slowly. They're strategic. They have a plan. They're going somewhere. They rule the material. They are people who are stable. They are grounded. And notice some of these words, right? When I say passion and confident, you're like, oof, confident, that's hot, right? Like you're attracted to someone who's bold, right? But on the earth side, you're like, wow, this is someone who is grounded. This is someone who calms me. This is someone who has a plan. So if I want to build a business, do I go to the fire sign or the earth sign? Who's going to have more practical advice?
Oh, Earth. Sorry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Who's going to get me to just turn the camera on and do the thing?
Fire.
Exactly. So do you see how you start to kind of pick out like, oh, these are traits I want for this? So if you're somebody that like has a lot of these elements, know that about yourself. There are weaknesses, like maybe as an earth sign, I move slower, but I'm a person that people can depend on. I'm somebody that can go the long way. I'm somebody that will take my time and do it right. Fire, they're going to do it. They're not always going to do it right because sometimes they're so impulsive, they didn't prepare, right? Then we go into air. Air is all about intelligence. Air is all about communication. Air is all about ideas. So anybody with a lot of air in their chart, they're very creative. They're good with people. They communicate well. They understand a lot of things. And they also have a really good way of like speaking what they understand. So anybody that has like Gemini, Libra, or Aquarius in their chart, this is what you bring: innovation, creativity, communication, intelligence, right? Now, water is emotion, is intuition. It's kind of being in your senses, but it's like feeling more than it's understanding. So, air is mental, water is physical, kinesthetic feeling, right? So, anybody that has a lot of water, these are people that are very emotionally intelligent when they're healed. These are people that use emotion as a way to move people. These are people who like connect into, like they connect with your soul. So if you think about the makeup of who you are, like I am fire, Leo rising, air, Gemini sun, water. What do I bring? Right? I have the emotional understanding to be like, are they getting it? Do they understand? And also connecting, like, man, that must feel really deep for her because she went through this. So there's that care, there's that nurturing. The air is like, I have a million ways that I could teach you this. What's the way that's going to click for them? Oh, that didn't work here. Let me use this example. Because creativity, communication, ideas are flowing all the time. And then the fire, I could sit here and teach you all the time, but if I never schedule the class and I never show up, how would you learn? Right? So for somebody who brings a lot of earth, you are somebody that's built to last. You'll do the thing, but you benefit from someone who's going to help you be creative, from someone that's going to help you connect to your feelings, from someone that's going to help you connect to your fire. And I think you are double earth and air, right, Nix?
Yeah.
Okay. And then mom, you are Aquarius,
Um,
Taurus, Aries. So air, fire, earth. Okay. So for example, for mom, you have these three elements. You benefit from having somebody who has what you don't have. So somebody who's more watery and emotional. That's why I drive you crazy, you see? Because I make you feel everything you don't want to feel. And then for you, next, you have a lot of earth, which when you have a lot of something, you want to be mindful, right? Because you have to balance it.
Mhm.
If you have too much of something, you're almost too rigid in that way. And then you have air. So you benefit from people who bring fire and who bring water. So anybody who gets you moving, because I know you want to do it right and you want to do it slow. Sometimes you just have to do it, right? And you also benefit from somebody who connects you to your feelings because if you could feel it, like think about water over time softens the earth, right? It's
Mhm.
good to be soft. It's good to move. It gets you there faster. But sometimes you're so rigid and so fixed or have so many ideas but never execute. So every element needs a little bit of something. Now, air and fire really complement each other. Earth and water really complement each other. We'll go deeper into that when I get into the signs, but you have the basics down, okay?
Gotcha.
Questions? Are we starting to see it?
Yeah, I just have like a out there question. So I don't know
Mhm.
if it really matters. I've just been noticing like that there's like fiery air signs and watery like air signs, and then there's earthy fire, blah blah blah. Is that like is there validity in that or
Yes.
just like finding?
Yes, and I think once we go deeper into the science, you'll understand where that comes from.
Okay.
Because again, remember, it's open to interpretation. So there's like a baby fire, a teenager fire, and a grown-up fire. It's all fire, but they show up differently.
Yeah.
And
I
like
really
even though, go ahead.
said that last time. Like that really stuck with me. So
And like Capricorn, for example, it's the adult of the earth signs. It's not as stubborn as Taurus. It's a little softer. It's actually feminine. Capricorn is known for being like a mom, but not a mom, like a grandma, like the crone. It's like, I've done this. I know what we're doing. Let's get the family fed. Let's take care of things. So the archetype of the crone is Capricorn. But for Taurus, they haven't developed that wisdom. So they're just stubborn. They think they know. They're going to move slow. So none of it is right or wrong. But yes, there's one that's more watery. I would say Capricorn is more watery
mhm.
than Taurus is. But it doesn't mean it's good or bad. It's just, yeah, there could be different, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm thinking of like a temperature gauge. There could be different gradations of each one. So I
Got it.
think as you understand the science better, you're going to start to make those connections on your own. Like I don't want to tell you what to believe. I just want to teach you and then let you develop your language around it because
Okay.
you're going to have a flavor that I don't have. Like when you talk astrology, you're going to bring double earth and air. You're going to be very creative, but you're going to teach it in a very grounded, practical way. For me, this is fun. I connect with people and I have a million ways to teach you. So it's
Mhm.
not that deep, but for you, it would be, right? And then my mom, her style, she has that Aquarius. She's going to be innovative and creative and be like almost ahead of her time where people are like, holy crap, how did she come up with that? Right. But then there's the Taurus to actually build it. And then there's the Aries that said, okay, guys, I'm ready to talk about it. Let's go. So she's going to teach it in a completely different way than me and you would. And maybe your goal isn't to teach, it's just to understand. But if you understand your makeup, you understand your patterns, what you're prone to do, where you may struggle. And that's the point of this.
Mhm.
So a lot of one element, you want to be mindful of what is it that I need to balance me out, and also what is it that I don't have. So like, let me pull up a random chart. Let's just do, we're gonna make one up. Can you guys see my screen still?
Mhm.
Okay, good. We're just gonna pick a random date. Let's do like 2015. They were born at 2 and they were born in Tucson, Arizona. I don't know who this is. We're just making it up. Oh no, I messed up. Hang on. Why didn't it pick that up? I think I went too fast. I freaked out. Here we go. Okay. So looking at this chart and what we've just discussed, right? What is the rising sign? Oh, you probably haven't learned these yet. They don't have names, but this would
Leo,
be Leo, right? So this is a Leo rising. Where is their sun?
Aries.
Tauro,
Is it? That's
Aries.
Aries, yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Mhm.
the moon would be here in Virgo, right? So we just pulled up a random chart, but the question is, men, what do they have a lot of? So we know, and actually this does it for you. This person has 16 elements in fire. So this is a chart that has a lot of fire. This is somebody that's like, let's get it done. I'm impulsive, woohoo, confident, bold, direct, but it makes sense. They have all of this in Aries. They have some stuff in Sagittarius. They have their rising in Jupiter in Leo. Of course, this person is like larger than life, right? But then they have 10 in water. That's good because water tempers fire. If you think about water and you throw it on a fire, it can turn it off, right? So even though they're really fiery, they're also calm enough and intuitive enough where it kind of balances them out a little bit. But what do they not have, like at all? Zero air. Do you see that?
Yeah.
They're not creative. They don't have somebody. They probably learn really difficult. Like their mind acuity, their ability to pick things up, their creativity. They're disconnected from that. So they need someone to inject ideas, to teach them something, to expand their minds, right? They also have very little water. These are people who are like, I feel this way and I'm right because not only am I stubborn, I'm also hot-headed. So what if you're wrong? What if the world doesn't revolve around you, Leo? What if you need somebody to tell you, calm down? So for people, when I look at a chart, the first thing I look at is the elements. How much of something do they have? Because I can understand a lot about a person just based on what element are they bringing to the table and how much of it do they have. Like if you have no air, that's your mind. If you have no water, that's your emotions. If you have no earth, that is your body, that is your groundedness. And if you have no fire, there is no spark. There is no drive. There's no motivation. So we need all of that. And if you don't have it, like this person, when they were born, they just don't have it. Does that mean something is wrong with them? No. They just need to bring people into their lives who have a lot of water and a lot of air because it'll benefit them. It'll soften them. It'll get them to like connect emotionally and also to think bigger. Do you see what I'm saying? Did
Yeah.
that help?
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Go ahead, Mom.
So, in my case, I need people that bring me water, you
Mm-hmm.
say,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't
Yes.
have it.
Well, we have to look at the whole chart. We're only looking at the big three
But
to start.
if I see my uh moon, sun, and ascendant and
You're
rising,
rising.
I need more water.
You could benefit from having water, yes.
Okay.
So having me as a Cancer moon daughter, like one of our favorite things to do is I make my mom cry because I'm a life coach. And I was like, let's go deeper. And every time I say let's go deeper, it's like crap, I have to feel. But I do that with all my friends. I do that with everybody I know because I feel so intuitively drawn to be like, man, this person just needs a hug. They just need to cry. But people who don't have that, they don't think about it like that. They're just like, what do I need to do? Who do I need to talk to? Can we just move through these feelings? But we'll get deeper into the science. But do you see how you could benefit from what you don't have?
Yeah,
Okay,
definitely.
good. Awesome. Okay. Next, we've talked about the signs, but I also want to teach you the astrological ruler. And again, these are words you've probably heard, but they are important when we're looking at astrology. These are just the basics, right? So every sign has a planet that rules it. So for Aries, the planet is Mars. And we talked about Mars being drive and passion, right? That's Aries. Aries is driven and passionate and impulsive. Taurus, ruled by Venus. Venus is the planet of luxury. It's the planet of money. Is the planet of what we value. Is the planet of love. So Taurus is very central. It's very loving. They're very into their bodies. They make a lot of money. They attract a lot of money. They're really good at it because not only do they attract it, they build it really slow, right? Gemini, ruled by Mercury. Mercury is the planet of the mind. It's all about thinking and communication. And Gemini is known for talking, talking, talking. They know a little bit about everything. They connect with everybody. It's like social butterfly, right? Cancer is ruled by the moon. The moon is all about intuition. It's all about your subconscious, your emotions. So Cancer is a sign that's very intuitive, that is very emotional. Do you see how they go together? But when you look at the rising, you need to understand who is the ruler. So for somebody who's a Taurus rising, the most important planet in your chart is Venus. For someone who's an Aquarius rising, the most important planet in your chart is Uranus and also Saturn. How are the rulers determined? We'll get into that. But essentially, back when remember, they were observing the planets back in the day, right? And all of this language came around like symbols, like hieroglyphics.
Oh.
So over time, observing the planet, they named a lot of these are constellations in the sky. Like if you, I can show you a picture. My sister actually made me this really cute picture of the sky and a map with the constellations, and you can actually see the constellation of like Leo is where the sun was in the sky, and it was really close to it. And that's, how do I say it? It's like it's math. It's measured. That's how they got there. Is the constellation and the planet and how they interact and how they have similar traits. But literally what this is and how they figured it out was math. Because ultimately astrology is math. There's degrees, there's angles, there's numbers. That is how we calculated astrology up until we got the systems to do it for us. But they have a traditional ruler because there's planets we didn't know about before. Like Pluto wasn't even known as a real planet until recently, right? So before, it used to be Mars, and Mars used to rule Aries and Scorpio. But now Mars rules Scorpio, but also Pluto rules Scorpio because it's the planet of the underworld and the planet of the taboo and the planet of transformation. So some signs like Aquarius, Pisces, and Scorpio have two rulers. So Scorpio has Pluto and Mars, Aquarius has Uranus and Saturn, and Pisces has Neptune and Jupiter. All the others, actually Gemini and Virgo share Mercury, and also Taurus and Libra share Venus.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just different flavors of those planets. But what I want to put in your mind right now is this is the sign, this is the ruler. So Aries, Mars, Taurus, Venus, Gemini, Mercury, Cancer, Moon, Leo, Sun, and so on and so forth. And you'll see why, because we're literally going to go through a chart together, but I just want to get your brain thinking like this. Like if I'm a Leo rising, what is the most important planet in my chart?
Sun.
Right. And if I'm a Sagittarius rising, what is the most important planet in my chart?
Jupiter.
Right. Because we know what I am. I'm a Leo rising. But how am I a Leo rising? Where is my sun? Oh, okay. My sun is in my career house. So the way that I shine as a Leo rising is when I'm in my career, when I'm building my legacy, when I'm sharing what I love. Okay. And my sun is in Gemini, which is actually the most important planet in my chart. You mean that when I'm talking and teaching and doing what I love, you see my Leo rising and I'm aligned with like my purpose? No way. When I was little, I didn't know it, but now that I know it, it's like, this is what I was born to do. Like, how fun is this? Now, for some people, let's say I can pick on you, Mommy, because I know your chart. She's an Aquarius rising, right? We look at where is Uranus and where is Saturn in her chart. For her, they're both in the, is it Pisces or Aquarius? I think it's in Aquarius. So I think it's in her first house. So we're looking at both of those and like what sign they're in and what flavor do they bring. But again, we're building it slowly. I don't want to overwhelm you yet. Right now it's just basics.
Okay.
Am I good to move forward or do we still have questions there?
I'm good.
Yeah? Okay. Now the next part is the where. We've talked about what, we talked about how. Now is where. Every house has a sign, technically has a planet, but it also represents an area of your life. So we go back to this little pie chart. This little pie chart. You see how every house has something that it rules? And I'm going to give you these slides as part of the recording in the course. So once I post it on Thinkific, you guys will have access to the slides. But it's just to kind of get your brain into it. So there we go. So the first house represents your identity, personality, physical appearance. We talked about the self, ascendant, right? The second house rules money, self-worth, and values. So this is finances. What do I have? What is mine? And also, how do I feel about myself, right? Third house is the house of communication. It also has to do with siblings, neighbors, short trips, and how you think. Fourth house, we talked about the IC, right? That's your home, your ancestry, where you come from, your roots, your emotional foundation, the beliefs you have. Fifth house has to do with romance, children, dating, hobbies, inner child, self-expression, sexuality, all of that lives there. Sixth house is your daily routine, your work, service, physical health. Seventh house, we talked about the descendant, right? On the axis, that's your partnerships. Who do you date? Who do you marry? Who are your enemies? Who are your closest friends? Who are the people that I keep attracting? Eighth house is money, but money with other people. So like inheritance, debt. I got rich through marriage. It has to do with intimacy and transformation. It has to do with death. It has to do with sex as well. Money, but again, in contact with other people. You can't have sex by yourself. This is money that comes through partnership, right? This is healing or trauma that you do heal with other people. So the eighth house is a little bit deeper than the second house. I wish I'd put a picture here so I could show you, but we'll do that later. Okay, ninth house, beliefs in higher learning. So this is about travel, philosophy, education, college, teaching, publishing, spirituality. Like it's bigger. 10th house, we talked about the MC. So career, public image, reputation, life goals, right? 11th house, friendships, hopes and dreams. Social media also lives here, what you're known for, like public image, though, how you're perceived, I would say. That's why I say social media and your life goals. Sorry, 11th house is where we are. Friendships, groups, hopes, and wishes. Social media is there. 12th house, subconscious. So this is more internal. This is more your inner world. So mental health lives here. Subconscious trauma lives here. It's the house of self-undoing because all of the stuff that could hinder you, like hospital, mental health, childhood trauma, that's where that lives, right? But again, we're going to unpack the houses deeper. These are just keywords, okay? Good to move forward?
Yeah.
Awesome. And we've talked about the ascendant, descendant, IC, and midheaven. This is just a better picture of how it all interacts. But I want you to notice, first house is always opposite seventh, second is always opposite eighth, this is always opposite this. This won't change. You might turn the wheel and the signs may change, but it will always be red like this. And any planets or anything that you have near any of these angles, they add to the story. So if I have my sun right here, my identity is connected to my career. But if I have my sun here, my identity is connected to who I date. And if I have my sun here, my identity is connected to my communication or my childhood. Do you see how that works?
Yeah.
So where you have your sun is the area of your life where your identity is. Where you have your moon is the area of your life where your feelings are connected. This is how you emote. So some people have very public feelings. Some people have very internal feelings. Some people feel to themselves. Some people feel in their relationship. Everybody emotes differently. Everybody thinks differently. Yeah?
Diana, are you recording?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. No,
Okay,
you're good.
okay. I just want to be sure.
Right. You want to take notes. I got you.
Yes,
No,
okay.
I'm going to be sharing the recording. I'm actually going to put it together like as a course. So once this is done, the reason I'm doing this like this is I'm just going to turn it into a course with all 6 weeks, and then I'm just going to sell it as a whole. But, this is getting me to get it done. So it's a win-win. Okay. So the next part, I know it's a lot of information, and believe it or not, this is just the basics. These are the bones. We haven't even put the meat on it. So one more thing I want you to be aware of is degrees. We are not going to unpack this today, but I want you to see that the wheel with all of the signs, every sign is going to have 30 degrees. So when you're looking at the wheel, notice it starts at 0 and it ends at 30. And even if it doesn't have the number, it'll have the little lines like this. So let's say your rising is in Gemini. This is a 21-degree Gemini rising. Do you see how the line that we're looking for, this is the ascendant line, goes through degree number 21?
Mm-hmm.
That's what that means. So when we're looking at a chart, like I'm a 27-degree Leo rising. So even though this is her first house has 9 degrees of Gemini, right? And then it has 21 degrees of Cancer. So even though this is a Gemini rising, they also have a lot of Cancer traits, a lot of watery traits. So this is a more emotional Gemini. This is a more intuitive Gemini rising. So remember the question you asked me next? This is where that flavor also comes in.
Okay.
But if you're looking at it whole sign, some websites give it to you whole sign, it's easier to understand because it puts everything really neat in a house. But if you're looking at it placidus, it'll make it exact and it'll shift the wheel, but it's still the same story. It just looks different. So you want to understand degrees because this is a question I get all the time on TikTok. And I'm probably going to make a video on this because it's crazy how a lot of people are like, but I have these 2 signs there. Yes, you do. And also you're still a Gemini rising. That does not change.
Well, what's coming up is like I thought that the houses were equally had like divided, but like I'm seeing in mine and even here, like the
Yeah.
6 is bigger,
Mhm.
4 is bigger. Like
Yeah.
how is that determined?
It's the same thing. It's just they amplified it here so you could see it better. But there are some charts that have, again, these are deeper terms, intersected houses where somebody has 2 signs in one house or 3 signs in one house. That also happens. But those are like not, it's like the exception to the rule.
Okay.
But they're all 30 degrees. That's a fact. They are all 30 degrees. But remember, we're measuring the sky. So even though we're looking at the sky and we're looking at it in a pie chart, degrees matter. The thing is, when we make it whole sign, it makes it easier to read. So let's look at this chart. This is a 12-degree rising. Do you see that? That we
Yeah.
pulled up earlier? And do you see how like this is where the first house starts and this is where it ends? Do you see how it's ending inside the sign of Virgo?
Yeah.
This is called placidus. This is the houses are not neat, but I can make it whole sign right here. And when I make a whole sign, watch what happens. Now the first house starts there and ends there.
Okay.
And everything is neatly placed in its own little house and they're all the same size. It's
So
the
what
same
does
chart.
placidus mean?
Say that again?
What does placidus mean?
Exact.
Exact.
Exactly. Like it's just being measured exactly how it is in the sky. And the degrees are exact because the truth is this house starts at 12 degrees. So it ends at 12 degrees. Like it's 30 degrees per house. So if 12 through 30, there's 18 degrees left, right?
Mhm.
So 18 degrees of this Leo rising, yes, they're Leo rising, but they also have a little bit of Virgo in them. But
Okay.
there's still a Leo rising, so their 7th house is still going to be Aquarius.
Okay.
Again, we're going to go deeper. These are basics. I don't want you to get fixated on the details because they're going to get answered as we build.
Okay. That's just my tendency. So
And that's okay because the goal is to understand, right? But it's getting you to think about it now, which
yeah.
is what I want. So now we're there. So 30 degrees per sign, 30 degrees per house every time. So a full wheel covers 360 degrees because it's a circle, right? 30 times 12, 360.
Mm.
So it's a 360-degree view of someone's life. Now, when we look at the degrees, it just helps you zero in and get more precise. When we look at the whole wheel, it's 360 degrees. Why does this matter? Because when we get into the aspects, this is how we measure them. So when I look at like a conjunction, I know these are foreign terms, but I want to get you thinking. A conjunction is when 2 planets are so close together, they don't have any degrees apart. So a conjunction looks like these two. Well, maybe not, but this is a conjunction because they're all in the same house, right? So you
Mhm.
see how all of these are in Aries? That's at 10 degrees. That's at 11 degrees. So these two I read together. I don't just say, oh, they're an Aries sun. I'll say this is a very, very bold Aries because they also have the South Node conjunct to their sun. So there's a lot of Aries traits that they naturally embody, good or bad, that they're not just a soft Aries, they're a really intense Aries.
So
So a
that,
conjunction, sorry, go
sorry.
ahead.
So that's what's happening right now with Saturn and Neptune.
Yes,
And see,
yes. Saturn and Neptune are conjunct. Let's actually look at that chart because, again, this is to learn. Hopefully, we have time to go through the rest of the things. I'm going to try to speed it up, but I want to show you. Hang on. Okay, I don't like this one. It's not that pretty. Let's go with this one. So this is the chart right now. But the other day, actually right now still, notice that Neptune and Saturn right here, do you see them?
yeah.
They're both at 0 degrees of Aries. That is a conjunction. They are together. So even though I'm like, ooh, Saturn entered Aries, I also have to tell you, Neptune is also there and they're working together because they are. That's why it's like illusions are being dissolved, but also reality checks are coming in. If it was just one energy, then that's all I would read. But when you see a conjunction in any chart, you read them together. But how do you know? You understand if there are no degrees of separation, they're conjunct.
Okay.
Square, 90 degrees. Again, we're going to go deeper into this. I just want to get you thinking. Opposition, 180 degrees. So a square is if there's something here. Let me find one with a square. Um, so 90 degrees. Let's just break it. Let's pretend, just for the sake of learning, right? That there's something happening here at 12 degrees, and there's something happening here at 12 degrees. That would be a square because it's 90 degrees.
Okay.
So if there's a planet here and a planet here, then that would be a square. So you want to know because if anything is 90 degrees apart, it is a square. So I'm trying to find one, but I don't see one. Boom, boom. Anyways, I don't have the time to dig, but I want to get you thinking. Opposition is 180 degrees. So it means you have one planet on top and one on the bottom. Or like say that Jupiter is right here and they had a planet right here, that would be an opposition. So there would be a line that goes from here to here. So in my chart, I actually have an opposition where you can clearly see it. I just don't have the chart pulled up.
Mhm.
Then we have a trine, which is 120 degrees. A trine basically means they're in the same sign and they work really well together. So there's a trine right here. See, this is fire and this is fire. So these two things work together and they're in the same element, so they help each other out. But they're 120 degrees apart. Do you see that? So
Yeah.
this line, that's a trine.
Okay.
And then we have a sextile, which is 60 degrees. We're going to go deeper into this when I'm teaching the class on the aspects because we have to start with the basics before we try to understand the lines. The lines can be a lot, and I could see it in your faces. It was like, oh my God, headlight. Let's take a breath collectively. And we're going to revisit this on class number 5. That's what we're not doing that in class number 1. Okay? Are we good? Are we breathing?
That's what I really don't really know. So I'm looking
And
forward to
that's why we're here. We're going to learn. So I know there's a couple people for the recording who either only purchased the first class or who said, let me try it and then go for more. This is great foundational information, but you want to go deeper and go through all the layers because, again, these are the bones. Even if you understand the concept, interpreting it takes sitting with someone and
Mhm.
talking it out so that your brain can be like, oh, I get it now. So I know right now this is terrifying. We just wanted to get it in your head because we're going to be revisiting that. Now, some other words that you may have heard or that you may not have, but I want you to remember, a stellium is when you have 3 or more planets together or in one house. So right now in the world, there's a massive stellium happening in Pisces. Do you see that? The sun, Venus, and Mercury are all in Pisces right now. So if a baby was born right now, they would have a stellium in Pisces. A stellium is a concentration of energy. Because if you have this many planets in one place, it's an area of your life that has a lot going on. Do you see that?
Mhm.
Good. Ruler, we talked about. So if I'm a Leo rising, I'm ruled by the sun. If I'm a Taurus rising, I'm ruled by Venus. If I'm an Aquarius rising, I'm ruled by Uranus and Jupiter. We talked about this. I mean, Uranus and Saturn, but we're getting those thoughts in there. The ruler means what is the planet that rules the sign? Degree, we just talked about. 30 degrees per house, 360 degrees in the chart. When we're doing aspects, it's like a pizza. How are we cutting the pizza? Right? An orb, it's a little bit more detailed, but it basically says like how close or how far can planets be so that we take them into consideration. So when I looked at this one and I said, oh, the sun and the south node are conjunct, but like this sign and this sign, do you see how they're in the same sign, but they're really far apart?
Mhm.
Like this one is at 3 degrees and this one is at 16. An orb would be anything within 3 degrees we consider conjunct. But these two, even though they're in the same house, they're not conjunct because the orb is 13 degrees. Because from 3 to 16, that's 13. That's a big gap for you to tell me that's the same energy. That's what an orb basically means. Do we see that?
Yeah. Is a stellium only in the houses, not the signs?
Both,
Okay.
because it's this one has a stellium also in the ninth house, but it's also in the sign of Aries.
Right. I have like a stellium in Scorpio, but it's like in both my seventh and eighth
And
houses.
that is because of the degrees that we were just talking about. Because you're rising, you're not, most people are not oh, I'm a 0 degree rising and my houses are perfect.
Right.
Most people have a bit of flavor from both. And we're going to unpack that, but it's just kind of the idea of, oh, I have a stellium. Oh, my chart is ruled by this. Oh, that's what that means. Okay. Now, the aspects are the lines or the angles between the planets. It's just math. Okay. So now let me walk you through the brain of an astrologer. And I'm going to do it quickly because I want to try to get this exercise and I'm seeing the time and I want to respect your time. But this is how an astrologer looks at a chart. We start with looking at the wheel and we see your rising sign. So for example, Jordy, Leo rising. Awesome. That tells me about how people see her, how she carries herself, what she looks like, how she comes across. Then I go to her chart ruler. Oh, if she's a Leo rising, then the sun is the ruler. Where is the sun? But let's pretend is one of you guys and it's not the sun. For Nyx, I would look at Venus. For mommy, I would look at Saturn and I would look at Uranus. And then we go into the sun. For me, the sun is the chart ruler. So we move on to step 3, right? Then we look at your moon. So notice my first steps are the big 3 and what is the chart ruler. That's why when somebody tells you, what are your big 3? We can tell a lot about you because when you tell me you're rising, I already know what your chart looks like. I
Mhm.
don't know where the planets are, but I know what the chart looks like. And then I go to like, okay, is there a stellium? Like, is there a place in their chart that there's a lot going on that I should talk about? Because if you have a stellium in the house of relationships, I already know, oh my God, girl, how are your relationships? How's dating going? Are you married? Oh, I bet it's so fun. And then people are like, girl, it's a nightmare. Or you're like, wow, there's a stellium in the 10th house. Okay, how's your career, boo? How's it going? That is how we think. And then we go into the major aspects. That's why the aspects matter, because if I see a lot of interaction between some of the houses with the lines in the middle, then it tells me the story of like, oh, I see. Her identity and her career are very connected. Her relationships and her childhood are very connected. And that's the conversation of an astrologer, right? Then you go into the angles like the MC and the IC, so career, childhood, and then we look at the bigger things like Pluto being in Aquarius or Neptune being in Aries, because those planets are going to take, like Neptune is going to be there for 13 years. Pluto's going to be there for 20 years. Saturn every 2.5 years. So why would I spend a chart talking about Pluto for 20 years when that's just one piece of your life? Like, yeah, for 20 years, that area of your life, we're going to have to work on it. But I want to tell you about you and then get into specifics. So that's how we read. Do you see the brain of an astrologer and how we look at a chart?
Starting to, yeah.
Now we're actually going to do it. So let's play a game. And there's no wrong answers, but I want you to participate, even if it's in the chat or out loud. Let's play the game. And then I'll tell you at the end who this is, and you tell me if we're right. Okay?
Yeah.
So this is a chart. Right off the bat, what do you see? Anything that you know?
Pisces sun,
Mm-hmm.
Gemini rising,
Mm-hmm.
Cancer moon.
Perfect. Now I also see the sun is really close, conjunct, remember that term?
Yeah.
To her MC. We talked about the MC. What is the MC?
Career and growth.
Yes. So their identity is very connected to their career. Interesting. Okay, what else do we know? What else can we see? And again, there's no wrong answers. It's okay if you don't know.
Still learning the planet symbols.
That's
So
okay. That's okay.
Uh,
Go
There,
ahead,
there,
mommy.
there is an stellium.
Yes. Where is the stellium?
The I don't know
It's
this
okay. This is Pisces. But
like
yes, that's your brain. Yes. Sun,
mhm.
Jupiter, and Venus are all in Pisces. How do we know? These are all the degrees of Pisces, and they all land in the degrees of Pisces. Do we see that? So
yeah.
do you see how your brain already knows? Oh, wow, this is the rising. There's a stellium. This is conjunct. We're just starting to see it. So now let's go to the next slide, and we're going to start with the basics. So we determined it's a Gemini rising, right? Because this is Gemini. So
Mhm.
Geminis are known for being curious, communicative, and adaptable. So we know whoever this is, they have a very curious mind. They talk a lot and they probably adapt through life. They've done a lot of different roles, right? But we know Gemini is ruled by Mercury. So what is the most important planet in this chart? Mercury.
Mercury.
So my brain goes to, okay, Gemini rising, love that. Oh my God, you're such a talker. You talk about all the things. That's so great. You have a curious mind. You learn a little bit about everything. And then I go, where is Mercury? What does she talk about? Like, what is it that she talks about? And Mercury for her is in Aquarius in the ninth house. So then I go, okay, Mercury in Aquarius. So what do we know about Aquarius? They're really weird. They're really out there. They have a thought process that's like almost ahead of their time. And then the ninth house, okay, so higher learning, philosophy, spirituality, greater than life thinking. And then I go, okay, so Mercury is all about communication. They communicate in an Aquarius way, which is innovative, unconventional, different. The ninth house has to do with publishing, big ideas, broadcasting. So do you see how that starts to create a picture in your brain? This person talks, yes, their zone of genius where they shine is they think so different. They don't think the way that everybody thinks about things. And they also talk in a way where like they have really big ideas and they're like broadcasting what they believe and like they can't help it. They have to talk about what they know because it's so different, right? Do we see how that comes together in our heads?
Yeah.
Beautiful. Then the next part is, okay, so we've done the rising and the planet. The next step is we look at the sun sign. We've already determined the sun is in Pisces, right? So we know her identity and who she is has a lot of Pisces traits. So even though this is somebody who's a talker, we know she's very empathetic. She's very creative, very emotional. She feels for everybody. She's very connected. But we also know that her sun is in the 10th house of career. So she feels and she loves, but she does it in her career. So who this person is, they love the people they talk to, or the ideas they bring is because they care, right? But we also know her sun is conjunct her MC. This is who she is. She cannot be anything but an emotional, loving, caring person who loves to speak. Do we see that? Okay,
Yeah.
so her identity is expressed through public visibility. 10th house. So now we look at the next step, which is her moon. Okay, so we know who she is, how she thinks, what she does, but how does she feel? Her moon, we talked about being in Cancer, right? So her moon is in Cancer, which is all about mom, nurturing, sweet, caring. So right off the bat, I'm like, wow, she's double water. This is a very caring person. Double water, very emotional, very intuitive, very caring. She really does love people, right? Then we go, okay, it's in the second house, which is the house of values and finances and materials. So her emotions affect her money, but also her emotional security comes to feeling financially stable. Her self-worth comes from, can I provide for someone and can I provide for myself, both materially, but because she's a Cancer, emotionally. Do we see that? So this is someone who's deeply connected to financial stability, but again, through their feelings. Some people, money and love and wow, money and emotions don't go together. For them, it does. So the next thing you pointed out is there was a stellium, right? So we know there's a concentration of energy, a big part of her life here. What is the 10th house is her career. So it's so much deeper than my identity and my emotions being connected to my money. Like I have a lot of Pisces. So a lot of like, I love the world. I want to help everybody. Oh my God, mental health. And I care about people, but in the house of careers. And we know Jupiter amplifies. So it's a huge area of growth for her. It's a huge area where like she can't hide. She just has to be this loving human being. Venus, this is where she attracts her money, which is very connected to her over here, right? We also know her sun, Lilith, we haven't talked about. But do you see how it kind of comes together to like for this person, her public life, her career is a really big part of her life. So now I'm going to tell you who we're talking about. Actually, not yet, but you can kind of see the idea of like where the planets are, where the sign is, what is it telling us? For her, is her career and her public self, right? Okay, I still haven't told you who she is. I'll tell you in a minute. But you kind of get the brain of, okay, what, how, where? We've discussed it. This person, we know her career. She talks in a very unique forward thinking way. She deeply, deeply cares. So she communicates innovative ideas publicly. I think this is where I tell you who she is Drew Barrymore. Have you guys ever seen her show? This is the girl from 50 First Dates.
I've seen the memes and stuff. I've never actually watched the
And
show.
her whole thing is being super emotionally connected to her guest. She sits on the couch and she crosses her legs. She hugs everybody, but she's so weird. She's so weird. And she talks in a way that you're like, girl, shut up. But that's why she's so successful. That's why she makes so much money. Even the movies she's done are very quirky, but very emotional, right? So the only reason I picked her chart is because today is her birthday. And I thought it was cute, 222. But do we see how astrology works? So
Yeah.
believe it or not, those are the basics. Those are just the bones. The next class, we're going to go into the signs. But now I'm going to open for Q&A. And I'm going to take this down. So let me pause the recording